Today, we'll be discussing Bitcoin's price action, whether or not you should panic, and what the gold ETFs can teach us about potential price action this year for Bitcoin ETFs. We'll be talking about Larry Fink and Gary Gensler's appearances on CNBC, yesterday's actual inflow and outflow numbers, the best and worst ETF commercials so far, and much more. Tune in. It's going to be a fun one. Welcome back to the second installment of our daily Bitcoin ETF news show, where we discuss the latest news, events, winners, losers, and key information surrounding the Bitcoin ETF and its 11 approved spot ETF issuers. My name is Dante Cook, and I lead the business group for Swan.com. Bitcoin's trading volume at top exchanges is down roughly 30% lower than yesterday, and the price crashed today to levels not seen since 2 weeks ago. Let's not panic, people. Your favorite airline, United Airlines, American Airlines, both dropped over 9% today. Your favorite furniture store, Wayfair, it dropped over 7% today. Your car vending machine company, Carvana, is down nearly 7%. Your wash machine manufacturer, Whirlpool, was down over 5%. And your go-to cologne maker, Burberry, was also down over 5%. This is totally normal. In fact, let's take a look at gold's first year price performance to give us an idea of what we could expect with Bitcoin's price action for the first year. The gold spot ETF, GLD, launched in November of 2004 with a spot price of $443 per ounce. The price chopped sideways for nearly a year until in late 2005, it jumped from $450 an ounce to nearly $970 in 2008. It ultimately saw a 3x increase over the next 7 years. Speaking of gold, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink said on a CNBC interview this morning that Bitcoin is no different than gold and that it's an asset that protects you from currency debasement.
I believe it goes up if the world is more frightened, if people have fearful of geopolitical risk, they're fearful of their own risk. It's no different than what gold represented over thousands of years. It is a asset class that protects you.
Right. Are we beginning to see a public change of heart from Uncle Larry now that BlackRock has positioned itself to benefit from the inevitable appreciation in the price of Bitcoin? We'll see if it's actually real. On the other side of the coin, SEC Chairman Gary Gensler was the latest talking head for mainstream news propaganda on CNBC this morning against Bitcoin again, calling it speculative, volatile, and primarily used for money laundering and ransomware.
Bitcoin itself, we did not approve. We do not endorse. This is a product called an exchange-traded product, a way that investors can invest in that underlying non-security commodity called Bitcoin. But yes, investors, I think, should be aware that the underlying asset is a highly speculative, volatile asset, and amongst its use cases is really for illicit activity, money laundering and sanctions and ransomware and the like.
Gary, since 2017, for every 20,000 in US dollars that have been used for money laundering, only $33 in Bitcoin were used for the same purposes. And I'm going to do some quick math here. I'm not a math guy, but hold me accountable here if I'm doing this wrong. If the average trading volume per day in Bitcoin is $30 billion and there's 365 days a year, that's roughly $11 trillion worth of Bitcoin traded every year. So you're telling me that over 10% of the world's GDP is used for money laundering and ransomware payments through Bitcoin? Again, I'm not a math guy, Gary, but that doesn't check out. The day one inflows are in, with the surprise winner of the day being Bitwise, with 237 million of inflow, followed by Fidelity in second with 227 million, and BlackRock in third with 111 million. I said it was surprising that Bitwise was the winner, but you know what? If you come to think about it, Bitwise is donating 10% of their ETF proceeds to Bitcoin developers, showing their support for the ethos of Bitcoin. And you know what? I was a fan of its Dos Equis commercial, even though we can all admit they could have used the world's most interesting man in a more interesting way.
You know what's interesting these days? Bitcoin.
But it's the thought that counts. Coming in at a paltry $10 million in inflows was Van Eck, who wasn't first in the race on day one in inflows, but first in our hearts.
The world holds on to old ways until it can't. When Bitcoin was born, it broke that endless cycle. It's not a defiance of finance. Bitcoin may help guard against the government devaluing your money.
Their commercial was edgy, innovative, impressive, but like the new guy, trying too hard to fit in. They definitely missed.
HODL. Search the ticker HODL in your stock trading app today.
It's pronounced HODL, not HODL. While GBTC did see outflows, as was expected, it was not as drastic given the $2 billion of volume yesterday that we saw. Only $95 million of capital exited the fund. The outflows could be explained by their 1.5% fee, scares from all of their current lawsuits, or their terrible commercial. Who in the Microsoft office approved that commercial to be released into the real world? On to today's volume winners. GBTC was today's clear volume winner with $1.8 billion in trading volume, followed by BlackRock with $551 million and Fidelity with $429 million. But remember, it's ultimately inflows that matter in terms of how many Bitcoin will be bought and held by these issuers, affecting the price, which we'll have more information on next week. It's important to remember that ETFs have a gap between the trades we place and the actual Bitcoin trades being settled with the custodian. Some ETF issuers have settlement gaps at a trade day plus 2. Meaning some of these ETF trade days from the first day of trading, with MLK being a holiday on Monday, won't actually be finalized until Tuesday when the market opens again. This will most likely result in a lag on the impact of Bitcoin's price caused by these daily ETF flows. But let me highlight one other thing. You know why you won't see the price of your Bitcoin ETF move this weekend? Well, it's because it's not real Bitcoin. It's a security representing Bitcoin. With real Bitcoin that you can directly own through places like swan.com, you have access to your freedom money 24/7, 365. Checking the price of your spot Bitcoin ETF over the weekend will be like going to Chick-fil-A on a Sunday or your local bank on a Saturday. If you get as mad as I do when you do that, don't. Directly own actual Bitcoin. With that, I'm signing off for the weekend. Thanks for tuning in to the second installment of the Daily Bitcoin ETF News. I'm Dante Cook with Swan.com. Happy stacking.